Welcome. Prompt templates are the key to saving hours of time with ChatGPT and for getting better results. In this video, I'm going to share with you highly practical use cases of ChatGPT, some amazing prompts that you can use in the accounting profession. Welcome. And so in this session, we're going to go through some highly practical use cases, how you can use ChatGPT. Now, this session is an extract from a live webinar I did. So let's go across to that webinar now. I can't wait to get started. In this session, as you can see from the slide here, we're going to look at highly practical use cases of ChatGPT for accounting firms. And we're going to be really practical in this session. In fact, what we're going to cover in this session is we're going to look at how to create prompt templates. I'll talk about the different types of prompts and how we can build templates to save time and get better results. And then we're going to get really practical. I'm going to go through 5 practical use cases with you. We're going to look at how we can create in seconds compelling blog post outlines which you can use for your marketing. We're going to look at how we can brainstorm new ideas in the accounting profession, what's coming. We'll look at how we can create in seconds really powerful industry research that we can use for business advisory or even just researching a brand new client that we are about to meet for the first time. We'll also look at how we can get information from financial statements, and we'll also look at how we can enhance email templates. So we have a lot of stuff to cover in just 40 minutes. So before we dive in though, just a little bit about me in case you have no idea who I am. My name is Mark Wickersham. I am a chartered accountant from the UK, although I live in Portugal right now, have done for a few years. I entered the profession way back in 1988, spent 3 years qualifying as a chartered accountant, 3 years then specializing in tax. A few years later, in 1996, I started my own sole practitioner accounting business, which I sold to my client managers some years later. And for the last 20 plus years, I've been teaching the accounting profession how to master and move to value pricing, but also how to create more value by delivering business advisory, how to grow more successful client firms and attract the right sort of clients for higher value work, and how we can automate things using AI and ChatGPT. I am the founder of the Value Pricing Academy. I work with hundreds of accounting firms around the world, mainly in the US and Canada, helping them to build more successful firms. Okay, with that said, let me mention I have some free resources. For you. And the first of those free resources I want to mention is for all delegates, for everybody, for you. And that is, I wrote a little while back an ebook on ChatGPT. It's called ChatGPT for Accountants and Bookkeepers. And so this is, if you're new to ChatGPT or you want some extra tips after today's session, then go and grab that. If you've got your smartphone to hand, you can just hover over the QR code there and it'll take you to the link, or we'll share the link with you. I've put it on the slide as well. So go and grab that. Okay, let's dive in. So first of all, let's just talk a little bit very quickly about some definitions. I'm going to talk about what is a large language model, often referred to as an LLM. A large language model is a form of AI, a very powerful form of AI that really rose to prominence and became well known since November 2022, which is when ChatGPT was released to the public, and then suddenly everybody got talking about AI, large language models, and ChatGPT. Now, ChatGPT was created by OpenAI. It is a large language model. A large language model is something that essentially it uses natural language and it looks for patterns and predicts what is the most likely word in the sequence, and has been trained upon huge amounts of data. Think of it as in pretty much the entirety of human knowledge that's on the internet. And so it's got all this knowledge, and it can create content and give you results extremely fast, as you'll see when we get to the practical side of things. Now, there are many different large language models around, and ChatGPT is just one of them. Just to give you a few more, another highly popular one is Claude by Anthropic, which in 2024 has got extremely good. And then we have Gemini by Google. And then we have many others, Meta, Facebook, they have their Llama model, and there are dozens of other large language models. And most of what I'm going to teach you today, you can use, all these prompts you can use inside any large language model. You do not have to use ChatGPT in the main. There are a few specific features of ChatGPT that you will need for some of the prompts I'll share with you. But I'm sure that most of the main LLMs, you could do the same thing. So why ChatGPT? The reason why I always teach ChatGPT is, firstly, because it's the one that's by far the most widely used, because it was the first one to come to the public attention. So most people use ChatGPT. It's also, the majority shareholder is Microsoft. So Microsoft are building ChatGPT into the back end of much of what they do. Copilot, for example, and also ChatGPT is being used by many other companies. In fact, you may have seen or heard in June 2024 at the Apple Worldwide Developers Conference, they had this huge announcement where for the first time they've teamed up with somebody else, OpenAI, to build ChatGPT into the Apple AI that's coming later on in 2024. So ChatGPT is the most well-known. That's the first reason we focus on that. And the second reason is there are regular tests that are carried out to see which is the best performing large language model. And over again, the top model of ChatGPT outperforms everybody else. There are brief moments where other models outperform and can be better in certain situations. Certainly, when we think about the mid-2024, there was some great developments from Anthropic with their Claude model, and in some instances, Claude has been better at ChatGPT. But then as soon as somebody seems to knock OpenAI, ChatGPT off the leaderboard, then they make a big change and they improve it further. So it's the best model, it's the most well-known model. Right, in this session then, we're going to get practical. We're going to look at prompts. We're going to go practical and look at use cases. And they're going to be, what I'm going to show you is prompt templates. There are really two types of prompts. One type of prompt is the quick prompt. Sometimes we can just do something very quickly, like we might do with a traditional search on a Google Chrome. When we do a Google search, we'll put in a very quick search term and fire that off. We can do the same thing with our prompts. We can do very quick prompts, and sometimes that's all we need. That can be fine. However, what we know is that if you have a very generic prompt, if it's not very specific, you won't get the best answer. What you want to do is, the more you can provide some guardrails, the more that you can create specificity and be really clear on exactly what you're looking for, the exact output you're looking for, the better the result you're going to get. And so this is where the world of prompt engineering comes in, which is how do we craft great prompts? And more on that in a second. But we can certainly create prompts on the fly, and that's fine when we want to do something fast. But the other type of prompt is to create a prompt template. And this is where we have a much more detailed prompt. We take some time creating the prompt, and we might do this if it's a task that we're going to do repeatedly. And what I'm going to share with you today is prompt templates, really detailed prompts, as you will see, which will give you very specific outcomes, very specific results. And although they are long prompts, they're the sorts of prompts that you can simply, once you've got them in your prompt library, is just simply cut and paste into ChatGPT. So I'm a big fan of creating prompt templates, and that's because I'm a big fan of getting more stuff done for less effort. I love the Michael Gerber message, the E-Myth Revisited, the importance of systems in our business. And prompt templates gives us systems for doing certain jobs extremely fast. Okay, so before we now get into these prompt templates. I'm going to show you how they were built up. And one of the things that's really important with large language models with AI is the skill of prompt engineering. Now, prompt engineering simply means it's the skill of how we communicate with an AI like a large language model. It's a skill. It's a highly sought after skill. In fact, in the US in 2023, it was reported that some companies are willing to pay as much as $375,000 for prompt engineers. And I teach prompt engineering. It's something I am fascinated by. I love communication and language and words. And so I teach prompt engineering to accounting firms. And I'm not going to go through this slide right now because this is the heart of one of my 2.5-hour training courses. But this is essentially the key things we need to build into a prompt. I'm not going to go through it now because what we're going to do is I'm actually going to refer to many of these things as we get into the practical side. I want to make today really practical. So with that said, it probably now is a really good time to get into the first of our 5 prompts. And I'm going to go across and open up ChatGPT. So here we are with ChatGPT. If this is unfamiliar to you, then I've hidden the sidebar, but in the side, we can see all of our past prompts. And if you are on a paid for account, you'll also see your GPTs in the top left. They're the things with icons. I'm not talking about GPTs today. That's more advanced topic. It's my favorite feature of ChatGPT. What I'm going to show you today, though, is things that you can do with a free account. Everything today I show you will be with a free account. There's some great things you can do if you decide to pay for ChatGPT. I highly recommend it, but you can do, as you'll soon see, some amazing things with just the free account. And so what we do is with ChatGPT is you simply put into the box at the bottom, the message box, what you want it to do. This is the prompt. Now, before I do that, if I go to the top left here, you can change between different models. And in, I think it was May of 2024, OpenAI released GPT-4o, which is their most powerful model, and they also made it available to free users, which is extraordinary. The only downside is if you have a free account, you will find that you very soon hit the limit, and therefore you might have to switch to the old 3.5. I have a paid for account. I use it every single day, which means I can use it for hours on end without hitting the limit. So I'm going to use GPT-4o for all of the prompts because that's freely available and it's the most powerful one. Right, what should we do first? We're going to look at, let's do marketing as our first topic. And let's imagine that you want to create a blog post. And so what I'm going to do in this first prompt, and I'm just grabbing the prompt itself. I've already written it. So you're not going to have to watch me do any typing in this because I'm just going to copy and paste. So I'm just going to copy the prompt and paste it in here. And so there it's in. I'm going to explain it in a second what you do. This is for coming up with an idea for a blog post and an outline. Now, in theory, you can get ChatGPT to write your blog posts. I do not recommend that for a number of reasons. One is it feels like it's cheating to me, but also because of something called the context window, it can only create a relatively short blog post. And so a much better thing to do is to create an outline first, and then you can either use that outline to write the blog post, or you could use ChatGPT to then write each of the individual sections. And you would do that with separate prompts. That's beyond the scope of today. Let's today just look at the outline. Now, what you have to do with a lot of these prompts is I love making them templates. And one of the things that I do to templicize them, if that's the right word, I'm not sure if that's a made-up word or not, but I have variables. You'll see at the bottom, at the end of a lot of my prompts, you'll see I have a section called variables. It's a long prompt, this. I'm at the end. And variables is where you can specify certain things, which means that all of the prompt is exactly the same every time you use it. You can reuse the prompt over and over again. All you just decide on is what are the variables. So in this case, let's imagine you want to write a blog post on the importance of a cash flow forecast. And you would just put that there for topic equals the importance of cash flow forecast. That's the variable for the topic. It means that once you've run this prompt, you could come back to it and do another outline on something else. And all you need to change is the topic to whatever you want the blog post to be about. For example, how to increase profitability in the construction industry, whatever. And then the other thing that you can do is, what is your preferred call to action? What do you want the reader of your blog post to do? Do you want them to use a link to book a meeting, in which case you might put your Calendly link in there? Do you want them to call you and perhaps you give them a telephone number? Do you want them to follow you on LinkedIn, whatever it might well be? So you just give it in this prompt 2 variables. What's the topic? What's the call to action? What do you want them to do when they've read the blog post? Now let's scroll to the top and you can see this is a very long prompt. Please don't get too worried about this because most of it is an element that is optional. So let me take you through a few bits of it. We start off with, it starts off with effectively here. It says, you are an experienced content writer specialized in creating informative and engaging blog posts for small business owners and freelancers. So what we're doing here is we're telling ChatGPT what role we want it to play. And one of the things we've learned in prompt engineering is that when you give the large language model a role, you will get a better answer, the sort of answer that you would expect from an experienced content writer rather than its default role of a helpful assistant. So a role is really important. You'll see I've done that in every single one of the prompts. In this case, it's playing the role of a content writer. Then we give it a task. What's the task we want it to do? And in this case, the task is to create a detailed outline for a blog post on topic. And this is the variable. ChatGPT knows that this is a variable and it knows to go and find that further on in the prompt. So in this case, it's a detailed outline for a blog post on the importance of cash flow forecast. Okay, so we don't have to rewrite this every time because we just have to change the variable at the end. It's much easier. The outline should be broken down to 5 sections, an introduction, 3 main ideas, and a conclusion with a call to action. Use the template as a guide for your response. Now, templates are really powerful. When you provide a template as part of your prompt, you are really steering it, giving some guardrails, some specificity about the exact layout of the result that you want. So now we have the template, and so I want a title, and I want it to write an engaging, attention-grabbing title for the blog post. I want an introduction, and I want it to introduce the topic of, in this case, cash flow forecasting. I then want a section for main idea number 1, and it wants to explain the first key idea with a recommended action for the reader to undertake. Similar thing for main idea number 2, main idea number 3, and then a conclusion and call to action where it summarizes the key points in the blog post and encourages the reader to take the next step and end with a call to action. So that is a template giving a framework for the output. And that is one of the most powerful and most important elements of an advanced prompt. Then I've got some goals and constraints that I've given it. What I want it to do is to create a detailed and logically structured, and I want it to avoid including unnecessary jargon or overly complex concepts. I want the outcome to be a detailed blog post outline with clear section headings and subheadings, and I want it to include actionable steps and practical advice throughout the outline. I'm just reminding it of key things here. I know I've said that in the steps, but it's always a good idea to remind it of important things in your prompts. Just like when we talk to a human and we delegate something, if it's a complex task, we sometimes want to reiterate the most important things. And then if I just scroll down a bit more, then the single biggest part of this particular prompt that makes it so long is I've included a couple of examples. Now these are optional, but one of the things about ChatGPT and other large language models is, as I said earlier, They look for patterns and predict the next word. And when you provide examples, ideally at least 3 and 5 is the optimum. When you give examples, it follows the patterns and it helps it to learn what you're looking for. So I just simply gave it a blog post outline for how to price bookkeeping services. And that's an outline there. And then I also gave it, I actually put in the importance of cash flow as an example. So I've got 2 examples of what the output might be, and then we have the variables. Okay, that might look scary, but hopefully I've simplified it for you into the key elements. So all we do is we cut and paste the prompt, we decide what our topic is going to be and what our call to action is going to be, and then we hit the button here. And as you're about to see, it now works extremely fast following that prompt to create our outline. So let me take you through it. Blog post outline development for the importance of a cash flow forecast, why every small business needs a cash flow forecast, essential insights for success. The first section should be to introduce the topic of cash flow forecasting, explain the significance of cash flow forecast for small businesses, and highlight how it can aid financial planning. Then the main idea is understanding cash flow, or the first idea. Explain the first key idea, the basics of cash flow, discuss the difference between cash flow and profit, highlight the importance of monitoring cash flow, and the recommended action for the reader would be to regularly track their business cash flow inflows and outflows to understand the cash position. Then we've got the second section of the main idea is the benefits of cash flow forecasting, and then how to create a cash flow forecast, a conclusion, which is going to summarize those, and then end with a call to action, which in this case is to use this link to book a meeting. So I don't know about you, but I think that's a pretty good outline for a blog post on the importance of cash flow forecasting for small business owners. It produced it extremely fast. And what I could now do is either go ahead and write that with an outline myself, or I could create other prompt templates that will then do a lot of the heavy lifting and then create the blog post from that outline. Okay, that's number 1. That's the first one I wanted to share with you. What we're going to look at next as the next prompt is we're going to look at how we can brainstorm ideas. In this case, we can look at ideas for the latest trends in the accounting industry. So here's a research task. Now, I could carry on the same chat and put it in here, but I like to keep my chats within a theme. And so I'm going to do a brand new chat. I'm going to hit the pencil in the top left, new chat, still ChatGPT 4. I'm going to go and paste the prompt in here. Let me explain it to you. You are an industry analyst, that's the role, specializing in identifying and analyzing the latest trends in the accounting industry. Your task is to provide an overview of the latest trends in the accounting industry that an accounting firm should be aware of to stay competitive. To complete your task, you must follow the steps and obey the rules. So in this particular prompt, I've got some action steps. I've actually got 3 steps. I think it's 3. 3 steps I want it to follow. The first one is to identify the trends in the accounting industry. The second step is to explain those trends in detail, and then using its browsing capability, provide examples. Now, by saying using your browsing capability, that's forcing it to go and use its ability to search the internet for the very latest information. Now, this will only work with a large language model where you can browse the internet, you can with ChatGPT. And why might that be important to browse the internet? Well, the reason for that is because all large language models have been trained up until a particular knowledge cutoff date. In other words, it's very unlikely that the large language model has any idea what happened today or even this week, because it's without going and using its browsing capability, because the date that the knowledge cutoff, the last time it was trained, could have been 2 months ago, 6 months ago, 9 months ago, depending on the model that you're using. So sometimes we want to make sure we want to tell it to search the internet. I've got some rules here. Ensure the trends are up to date and relevant, and avoid any outdated or irrelevant trends. So this one's a much shorter prompt, as you can see, because I didn't want to, they don't all have to be super scary long. This one is really all it needs to do. Let's see what it does. I'm going to hit this button here, and it's now going to come up with, it's a bit of a pause. It's searching the internet. It searched some sites and it says, to stay competitive in the ever-evolving accounting industry, it's crucial for accounting firms to be aware of and adapt to the latest trends. So no surprise, increased adoption of AI and automation, and we can read out more about it there. And it's also given us the links to the sites where it got that information, just in case we want to go and do some further research. Emphasis on data security. Definitely that's a big issue in the profession right now, particularly with what's happening with AI, for example. Digitalization and cloud accounting. Yep, that's certainly important still. And then we've got increasing concerns around the world around things like environmental stuff, social stuff, so ESG reporting, personalized and addictive financial services, expansion of advisory roles, which I definitely agree with. We should be doing much more advisory work. Talent acquisition and retention, because there are not enough new people coming into the accounting profession. Yep, that's certainly an issue. And then we've got some various case studies and links there. So this particular prompt is one that you could run every time you want to know the latest in the accounting industry. And it's given us, in this case, 7 things. Now, one of the things that you could do is, if you like this particular prompt, this is something you could run systematically every month to see what the latest is. But also, if you ever want more ideas, let's say you're expecting something else, we have at the bottom, amongst these different icons, one of them is called regenerate. Regenerate means it will do the task again. If I hit regenerate, it'll redo the prompt, but it'll come up with different answers this time. And that can sometimes be useful. Sometimes when we're brainstorming ideas, when we're using ChatGPT to brainstorm, it can be useful to do that and see what else comes out. We can see from Financial Sense here, blockchain technology, remote work and collaboration tools. Some of these are the same as before, but there's 2 new ones. And so we can remember, you can always regenerate and get more ideas. Very useful, as I say, for any sort of research. Okay, let's move on to example number 3. And this is one that I really like. Let me just start a brand new chat. Let me put it into here. This is for doing research now into a client. And I'm just going to, for a second, let me just grab this. And before we went live, I went and found a random business, okay? This happens to be, they're called Granite State. They're in the plumbing and heating industry in the US. So let's just imagine for a minute, this is a client someone you're about to meet for the first time, you don't know anything about them and you want to do some research into their business before you have the first meeting. Or it might be that they're an existing client, but you want to work with them and do business advisory, and therefore you want to do some research before your meeting to discuss your business advisory services. So what we do with this prompt, like the first one, we have some variables, and the variables are very simple. What is the client's website, which is the one I just showed you, and what industry are they in? So in this case, the plumbing and heating. So all you have to do for this prompt, once you have the template, is just give it whatever client's website and whatever industry they're in. What's it going to do? Well, it's going to carry out industry research. And once again, we have the role and the task. We want it to analyze the client's website and all linked pages to fully understand the client. And then we also want it to use its browsing capabilities to research the industry sector. And then you can see that client website and industry sector are our 2 variables, which means we can run this prompt template over and over again every time we meet a brand new client or want to start talking to a client about business advisory. And then what we have here is we've just given it a template for how we want it to lay out the research report. What are the sorts of things that we are looking for in this report? So let's run it and see what it does. It's going to take a few seconds just to browse the internet. It didn't take long, it found 7 sites. So here we go, we have a report for our client meeting. Market research report for plumbing and heating industry. This report provides a comprehensive analysis of the current state and future outlook of this industry, focusing on market trends, key competitors, innovations, and regulatory changes. Okay, so a great little executive summary. So then what we've got is we've got the current market trends. So this will be really useful to know this before we meet a client. In this industry, it seems to be sustainability and green plumbing, smart plumbing fixtures, labor shortages, digital transformation. And we can see for each of those a little bit of information. And if we wanted to, we could go and click on the links and go and look at the source material where it came from. Then we've got some information about market size and growth. So the plumbing industry in the US was valued at $126 billion last year in 2023. And we can see a bit more about that. We've got competitor analysis. So it's identified some potential competitors for this particular business, Granite State Plumbing. We've got Benjamin Franklin and Mr. Rooter Plumbing. Then we've got some stuff around market position and offerings. So we can see what are the strengths of these competitors? What do they do which are strengths, which would demonstrate to our client that we have really done some homework and we're interested in their business. We've got some strengths and weaknesses of those particular competitors. We've also got the latest innovations in plumbing and heating, so smart technology integration, alternative materials, grey water recycling systems. We've got regulatory changes, and we've got licensing and certification and green building codes. And for both those, it gives us what will be the impact on our client's business. And then we've got some recommendations that we could bring to the meeting to discuss with the client. I don't know about you, but I think that's a hugely valuable report that we can produce in seconds with a template prompt that we can use for every single client meeting, every time we want to do business advisory. Right, we're running out of time, so I'm going to do the next two fast, because I think you're getting the point now of some of the things that we can do. This next one is let's build a prompt to analyze financial statements and get some useful information. Now for this one, you would need, for this, I'm going to give it a monthly profit and loss account. It happens to look like this. I've made it anonymous. It hasn't got the client's name in it. It's just anonymous data. I've got their profit and loss account. This is for 2022 from January through to December. Let's imagine that I'm seeing this client tomorrow. I've got their financial statements. I've got their monthly profit and loss account. And I would like to get some ideas of things that I could talk about. I want it to analyze this profit and loss account and identify some things like, I can see here there's some seasonality. Some months they're making a loss. Some things are obvious, some might be less so. Anyway, let's get ChatGPT to do the hard work for us. So here is the prompt. And what I then need to do, I'll go through the prompt in a second, but one of the things we can do with ChatGPT 4.0 is we can take something like an Excel spreadsheet and we can upload it. And all I'm doing is just dragging it in. It's now analyzing it. There you go. It's now got that sample monthly profit and loss account. And my prompt is, you're a financial accountant, skilled in interpreting financial data. I have uploaded the monthly profit and loss account for a fish restaurant. This is what I want you to do. I want you to analyze the data, give me a summary of the results, what trends might give cause for concern, which I should bring to the attention of the business owner, and 5 suggestions for the business owner for improving their results. And then I've just given it some context, a little bit of information about this particular client, so it's not just raw numbers. So let me hit this button. Let's see how quickly it can analyze a spreadsheet, a profit and loss account. So it's doing that now. It's using its code interpreter functionality. It'll take a few seconds to do that as it's looking at the numbers. And now we've got a summary of the results, and these numbers are right. I've got the spreadsheet open as well, and I can see that yes, that is the total sales for the year. So we've got a summary of the results. Then we've got trends of concern. Yep, seasonal variability. It's a fish restaurant in a tourist area. High material costs. Labor costs are high, constituting 30% of sales. This may indicate inefficiencies or overstaffing. Operating profit, low operating profit margins, negative cash flow months, and then suggestions for improvements. Implement cost control measures, review labor allocation, increase off-peak season revenue, enhance marketing efforts, and so on. There's some great ideas there that I could then bring to the meeting to talk about their results, concerns, some possible ideas to improve the numbers. Okay, we have one more prompt. And so this one is, let's imagine, again, I love systems, and I'm going to start a brand new chat here. Let's imagine you want to improve some of the templates that you use. So for example, and this is particularly the case, if you're using other software companies, a lot of software, for example, Ignition is a great software tool, and Ignition automates the process of creating engagement letters and sending it off to the client for signature. And built into Ignition is a standard email that gets used. And those emails are a great starting point, but they're a little bit brief sometimes. And this one actually comes from Ignition. It says, please read through and sign the agreement we discussed together. Let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, I'm really looking forward to working with you. It's an okay email, but it's a little bit short. So what we do with this prompt is we simply feed it whatever original email you want it to improve at the end of the prompt. Now we go to the top and it says, you are a professional email writer. Your task is to enhance an email from a professional firm of financial accountants, making it more friendly, conversational, and exciting. And we've got some steps: review the original email, identify areas for improvement, rewrite, and ensure it's friendly and conversational. We've got some goals and constraints, some outcome expectations, and also we have a couple of examples. This is why it's a long prompt. Well, just one example in this case. There's an example here of an email. And the example is so important because this is where we train it in, for example, do you say hi or hello or good morning? How do you sign off? So let's just run this quickly. Let's see what it does. It's going to take that original email and look at this, much better. I'm thrilled to start our partnership. Hi, John. I hope this email finds you well. I'm following up on our recent conversation to share the agreement for your review. We've included all the exciting details we discussed, and I'm eager to get started. Take your time to go through the agreement, and if you have any questions or need further clarification, don't hesitate to reach out. Your comfort and understanding are our top priorities. I'm really looking forward to working together and achieving great things. This marks the beginning of an exciting journey, and I'm thrilled to have you on board. I think you'll agree that's a much better email than this little one here. Now, of course, it might not be your writing style, but that's fine. All you would do is change the example email with something that would perhaps more your writing style. So there are 5 examples, use cases of how you can use ChatGPT. It's an extraordinary tool. I use it every day. It saves absolutely hours of time. And I've now built a collection of 100 prompts just like that, specifically for accounting firms. Perhaps one day I'll get the chance to share those with you. I do have a course on use cases for ChatGPT. Okay, I did mention some free resources. So firstly, free resources to you, to everybody. Firstly, I mentioned there was the eBook, ChatGPT for accountants and bookkeepers. Scan the QR code or use the link that you can see. Secondly, I have a whole bunch of other completely free resources for you. If you want those free resources, all you need to do, it's really simple, is find me on LinkedIn. And if you've got your smartphone, use the QR code. The link's also in the bottom of the slide. Find me on LinkedIn. Tell me you saw me at the summit. And what I will do is I will then send you a response as fast as I can with a link to a whole bunch of other free resources. So what have we covered in this session? We've looked at, if you remember, we've looked at the importance of creating prompts, why prompt templates are powerful. Yes, we can have short prompts sometimes for one-off things, but for systemizing repeatable tasks, having prompt templates are really powerful. And therefore, having some knowledge in prompt engineering really helps. And then we looked at that prompt for creating an outline for a blog post. We looked at that prompt for how we can brainstorm and come up with the latest innovations and ideas in the accounting industry. Then we went a step further on a prompt that we can use to brainstorm and get research into any client, any industry. We looked at a report on financial statements, and we looked at enhancing email templates. Wow, we've covered so much stuff. That time has gone by really quick. Thank you so much for listening. If you found that valuable, please firstly click the thumbs up button. the like button. I would really appreciate that. That tells me that you like this sort of content, and therefore I will create some more content. If you've not yet subscribed, hit that subscribe button, but also if you hit the notifications bell, that means you'll be notified whenever I do another video on YouTube. And also, if you would like to find out more about getting prompt templates, for example, I've put a link below, and that link will put you on our list of VIP list, which means that what we do is with our VIP list, we send an email once a week on a Monday. It comes out on a Monday. In that email, we tell you about what are our free training events coming up, and we also have our prompt of the week. So we have a detailed prompt. We share one every single week. I also have other tips for the accounting profession. There's all sorts of value you'll get. It's one email a week on a Monday. So click on the link below to grab that. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for watching this video, and I will see you again on another one. Bye for now.